Oh, it's a different view. All right. Are we live? We are live. Refresh browser if you need to. Oh, and people are tweeting that can't tell time. All right, looks like a few people can see. All right, looks like a few people can see. All right, looks like a few people can see. All right, looks like Okay, there's some feedback. Are we still getting the feedback?
No, we're good.
We're good? Okay. Terry's monitoring and helping me out with this. Okay. So, while everybody gets in, I'm going to start with some of the questions that Eric gathered from the forums. So, welcome to the second live Q&A for Takedown the Game at Serellan LLC. Thanks for coming out to the internets and joining us this beautiful Thursday afternoon. So I don't have the list of who asked the various questions, but we'll burn through a few of these while you guys start posting up your questions. Go ahead and just post your questions in the chat room, and as I answer them, Terry will keep them queued up to make sure that I get to them. So first question from the forums is: will the AI be behavior driven? I'm assuming what that means is the level of scripting that will come to the AI. So the goal of the AI is to be behavior driven. So they'll have an individual AI set to respond to various different inputs, such as noises heard, enemies seen, weapons fired, things like that. There will be some scripting based around, in mission mode, based around the types of objectives. So there may be AI that are scripted to threaten hostages or arm bombs and things like that, and those would be more script-driven rather than behavior-driven things for the AI. So, next. Will MP multiplayer be PMC versus PMC or PMC versus terrorist? Base mode will be PMC versus PMC, so you can use your own character, but we do want to be able to support PMC versus bad guys. Free look. Corfeo, will there be free look, ability to move camera separate from a gun? We're still looking at free look. It's something that's been brought up in pretty much every Q&A that we've done, so we're looking at that. Base implementation is kind of standard camera implementation that we have in now that we're playtesting right now, but we're going to be looking at expanding that. Okay. How many voice actors will Serellan hire, and how many languages will they speak? To have a realistic, authentic game, there should be authentic languages portrayed and spoken. Isn't that correct? That's all down to scope and what regions we go into. The basic languages would be the ones based on the missions. We do plan to have localization, and we're in contact with several localization groups that want to provide support for us. Imshumi, what middleware, if any, do you guys plan to use, i.e. Havoc? That's still up in the air. I mean, there's several different middleware that we're looking at as far as physics. Obviously, being Unreal Engine 3, we want to choose middleware that's focused, that supports the engine and works well with the engine. We're probably going to be using a lot of the middleware that comes packaged with Unreal 3 and has integral support with it, things like Bink and Scaleform and things like that. This is Nick229. Will the game be sold internationally? That's the plan, yes. Obviously, digital distribution, we want to hit as wide as we can, but we've also been contacted by several distributors who are interested in physical worldwide distribution of the game. So we want to get it out to as many regions as possible. Machine 1981. What will be the focus regarding the maps? CQB urban or open like the original Ghost Recon, or maybe a mix of both? CQB is the focus for Takedown. We will be looking at some more open maps, such as construction yards and things like that, to give sniper gameplay an opportunity to be part of the game. But the focus, much like the original Rainbow and SWAT, are CQB environments. Let's see, another one from the forums. How realistic will ballistics be? And will you guys use projectiles or hit scan? Right now, the way it's implemented is hit scan. Ballistics is going to be determined. The amount of ballistics implementation is going to be really determined by the gameplay. In a CQB environment, there's not a lot of ballistic, functionality in that. There's not a lot of bullet drop when you're engaging a target, between 50 and 100 yards than you would see in something like Armée, where you're engaging at much longer distances. Obviously, things like wind and everything don't have much of an effect when you're engaging in a CQB environment. But we will be looking, letting the gameplay drive that. So if the gameplay drives having larger spaces and we need to implement ballistics, by most times when people ask about ballistics, they're asking about bullet drop, bullet rise, and wind effects. This is Nick. Will the hit scan be instant? Follow up from VJ. Will the hit scan be instant hit or still a flying projectile? It will probably still be a flying projectile. We can put that into with hit scan. Basically, there's different ways to do it. You can cast a ray and then calculate the distance of the bullet, and then shoot along that ray and see if the target's still there. So to Corfro, hit scan, it's all whether it's an actual projectile that's fired out, that's tracked by the physics system, or you're basically casting a ray, which is instant, and then checking to see if you're hit. But you can work delays into hit scan if you want to, if it's feasible and doable. This is Nick229. Kind of a question, not really about the technical side of the game, but what inspired you to make a game like Takedown? Well, the inspiration is that this is what I got into the games industry to do. I joined Redstorm as a modder from Rogue Spear and Urban Ops, and was excited to work on a game like Rainbow Six, and I never really got to. I did a little bit of weapons design for Athena Sword, but then was quickly moved on to Ghost Recon on the console, and stayed on Ghost Recon, focusing on Xbox, for multiple years and multiple titles, and then obviously went on to work on Halo. So when it came to starting my own company, both, something I've always been interested in, but I also got a lot of feedback from fans right off the bat, and we just put up a blank website. I started getting emails asking about it, and so, thus came Kickstarter and how it all got started. M. Shumi, moving forward, what do you believe will be the biggest challenges on development? Well, just development itself is a challenge. Getting content made and getting content into the game is always a challenge, and that's an exciting challenge, but it's one that's there. Obviously we're on a tight budget and are still working with external business partners to move forward on the game. As far as from technical development side, we've always known all along that the AI is going to be our biggest technical focus and technical challenge. AI in a game like this is really what makes or breaks it. And so having opposing AI that feels challenging and realistic, yet doesn't feel like it's cheating or faking things, and then having friendly AI that can work with you and make the game feel good. Who's next? All right, Terry sent me one. I really have one question. When can my crew and I play this in co-op? We're still working on our alpha schedule. When when Kickstarters and supporters we'll be able to get an early look at the game. We're in early prototype phase right now, so we're playing the game internally. Multiplayer is close to up and running, and single player has been running for a bit. So we're running around and shooting dudes and balancing weapons and doing things like that. We plan to be releasing our first screenshots here to you guys. We plan to get those up to Kickstarters and supporters first, and then probably out to some media folks after that. And so, keep an eye on the website for when those are out. We're actually composing the screenshots now. Mark has done a really good job on the level. It looks really good. If you haven't checked out the level video, production video showing our kind of production process, that gives you a really early sneak peek from, I think, about 8 weeks ago, those shots. So you're going to be pretty impressed with the progress that we've made on the level, especially on the lighting side. We got our first enemy character in the game. We've got our first base weapon models done, and have our first weapon model in the game. We still have to get the rest of those in the game. So, number of maps at launch from Dave 2024. We don't know yet. That's going to be dependent on time, but we do plan a full-fledged campaign and multiplayer support for those maps as well. I think I've talked quite a bit, if you've watched any of these past, in our level production process and how we start with a real space and build it up and then get it for multiplayer. So we get a lot of reuse out of our spaces. That's one of our huge benefits of not being a linear campaign game, is that all the spaces can be played in co-op and multiplayer and single player as well, with co-op modes like Tango Hunt and Mission Mode and things like that. This is a common one. Machine 1981, will there be a story-driven campaign, or will it be a set of non-related missions? The primary focus is standalone scenarios, but like I mentioned before, there could be storylines that string those together. The most common example is, one mission you take down a tanker that's being oil tanker that's been taken over by pirates. And then your next mission is to locate and take out the headquarters of those pirates where they're launching from land. But don't expect an overarching story campaign that's along the lines of all the other ones that you've seen over and over and over again. Monkey Murdery. I like that handle, Monkey Murdery. Will you have secondary mission objectives like Raw 2 co-op, and will the player be punished like Swamp Airfield for co-op parts? There is a plan to have different objective levels based on the ROE and the objectives in the mission. The objective missions in Gra 2 co-op, at least on the Xbox, were very co-op focused. We did a lot of work with things like you have to take down the 2 towers at the same time before reinforcements came in. I think on Swamp Airfield was that one where there was multiple radio towers, and if you didn't take them down before the bad guys called for help, then helicopters came in and attacked you. So we will be looking at those kind of things. We don't want every mission to just be a fail. There could be missions with different ROE and different objective types where different outcomes affect the way that the mission plays out. It's good for replayability as well. Let's see.
Will you be at PAX?
Oh, will I be at PAX? Yes. Yes. We will be at PAX. I want to make a shout out. Who am I making the shout out to? Devonish on Twitter hooked us up with 2 PAX passes. I had, having worked at big publishers the last few years, I kind of forgot until the last moment to get a PAX pass. And so he sent us a couple PAX passes. I'll be using one of them. I've got some meetings with various different partners that I can't, unfortunately, mention here because I haven't gotten their permission to say who I'm meeting with. But we also have an extra PAX pass, so if any of you guys are local to Seattle and want to get a PAX pass today, post up, I guess, and Terry will keep track of who you are. You'd have to be able to come out and pick it up here in Bothell, and we'll give you a PAX pass. If not, we'll none of you guys want it, we'll move it out to the forums or Twitter or do something like that. Zygris, have you announced how many maps will be in the game? Going by the first map is shaping up. How long does it take to make a map? Again, we don't have the exact numbers. A bunch of people are on vacation right now, but when James gets back from vacation, one of the things we're going to be sitting down is looking at how long that space took us to build. We're at like week 9 or 10 on Biolab or Biohazard Facility or whatever it's called. And we're pretty far along. We had originally only planned to have the level white boxed with one beautiful corner. We were going to do just the lab space, and the rest of it for prototype was just going to be a gray box space that you could still run through. But Mark's been moving so fast that we now have essentially 3 beautiful corners, and we might end up with most of the map arted. So the lobby is arted and lit. Most of the lab spaces are arted and lit, including different arts lab spaces. We've got the server room built, and we may be able to move on to the generator room underneath to get that arted. So that's with one primary artist focused on it, and then me doing scripting and things like that. Corfio, are you getting consulting from multiple branches of service? Yes, we have multiple, both military and police contacts that will be providing us consulting. There's different stages in development when you want to hit up consultancy, depending on what you're doing, whether it be VO recording, animations, and things like that. Right now we're focusing on the animation side. Andy, our animator, is focusing on the first enemy character, which we should be releasing screenshots of soon. They'll be released with the screenshots of the level. And it's basically a security guard. So we're doing our animation pipeline on him because you're going to see the enemy character a lot more than obviously you're going to see the player character in the first prototype. So we're using him to test our pipeline and get that stuff in first. Stravare, will there be desert maps? I would say desert maps are pretty low on the and then the next one from Terminless Halo, will there be maps like Brazil, shanty towns? Desert maps and shanty towns are less of a focus for us. One of the things that we want to do artistically and visually is kind of stand aside as a different take on a modern shooter that's not my quote is brown, gray, dirty map with blood splatter on your screen like you're seeing in every other game. If you looked at the concept art we released, more clean, modern, used spaces. I found in looking at various types of situations that the CQB team is in, aside from hitting the cartels in Mexico and South America, which is a very possible mission. They tend to not be doing a lot of action in shanty towns, and obviously the deserts are covered by all the games set in fake Afghanistan. BS Paladin, hey Paladin, what's up, dude? Our number one modder. Any plans on how the editor will work? I.e., will it use a bespoke mission scripting UI or just use Kismet? Probably focusing on Kismet right now. We have an engineer that's looking into a lot of the initial stuff for the mission prototype I did in Kismet, and same with some of the AI stuff, and a couple engineers right now are looking to move that stuff to code because it's just a lot more efficient to have it in code. The nice thing about Kismet is I can get it up and running in a rough state and get it playing very quickly, and we can play it and iterate it on it, and adjust difficulty and things, and then when the engineers can see the intended functionality, they can move that stuff over into code. This is Nick229. How good are the graphics in Takedown? I'd say they look pretty good. You're going to see the screenshots soon. The lighting especially, I think looks really good. We're focusing on lighting as an element to be able to help with navigation. For example, on the biolab space, there's multiple floors with multiple lab spaces, and so the different floors have different color schemes on how they're painted, and then also different lighting sets to help tell you where you are. Of course, the upper floor also has skylights that lead out onto the roof, and the lower floor doesn't. But right now it's getting to the point on the graphics. Mark implemented real-time reflections last week, and I could no longer run the game on my laptop, which doesn't really have a graphics card. I was trying to run a laptop that was under UE3 minimum spec, but it looks damn good, even though right now I'm only running it a few frames per second. But Mark's machine can run it great. So, Bobcat, hello Bobcat. Let's see, from Jimmy Bob, will the AI include both random and scenario-based psychological effects, i.e. drunk nightclub patrons, sleep-deprived suspects, etc.? We'll have to look into that. A lot of that is the amount of time it takes to implement something such as a drunk adversary, the animation support for that, because it can't just be on the AI side. It has to be something that you can perceive as a player. So if there's not animation support for a drunk dude, then it just looks like an AI that's running around and shooting the ground because he can't hit anything. Whereas you need animation support, you need audio support to get that kind of stuff across, and it's how big of an impact is that into the game. Monkey Murdy, you've been playing early mock-ups with enemy AI. Can you comment on what AI behavior for friendlies hostages? Can you outline high level what you would see them doing, adding to the complex dynamic gameplay at this early phase? Basically, the AI is really rudimentary right now. So basically what the AI does is, it sees you, it engages you with weapons fire. If it can't kill you, if it loses line of sight, it'll relocate to different cover positions. And we're working on expanding that right now to get more of a divergent AI set with a guard AI set that wants to kind of defend objectives, and then more of an aggressive AI set that once it's triggered through either audio or teammates or things like that, actively goes out and tries to find you moving through the space in a smart way. Hostages aren't implemented right now. We've implemented actually bombs as the primary objective in the biolab system. So the actual objectives in the biolab are there's several bombs that are randomly placed throughout the level that the bad guys have placed, and also you need to hack the server system. And when I release the screenshots, I'll give you a little write-up of the actual mission objective and the kind of fiction behind it that we've come up with. Dave 2024 ETA on screenshots, probably next week or the week after. So I'd say at the outside 2 weeks. PAX is kind of putting a crimp into things, and then we got a bunch of meetings next week with people after PAX as well. And then August has really everybody takes vacation in August. So both internally we got a few people on vacation and things like that. So hopefully a couple weeks. Terry the Hammer. No, that's Terry first. Stavari, how hard will the game be? How hard will the game be? The base game will be pretty hard. Right now, the way I've got the numbers tweaks, if you're playing as a single AI, it's actually pretty challenging. With only, I think we've got 18, max 18, between 15 and 18 enemies right now. And it's pretty brutally difficult. There's a lot of reasons for that in development. Like right now, the AI characters are running pretty fast. I need to slow them down and things like that. And they can pop you pretty good. And so the game will be challenging. That's part of this game, is that it's not always easy, and especially with being a nonlinear game with semi-randomized enemy placements, you can't just run through and know exactly where all the various bad guys are going to be. So there is some trial and error in there, and there's always the element of chance. When guys like this go into a situation, they don't always know what's going to go on, and sometimes things go bad, and that's going to happen to you in this game. We do plan an easy mode, so if you're not good on the mouse, our philosophy is that you should be able to play the game through, and if you want to put it on easy mode and have a win button, you should have a win button. Okay. Corfio, will there be real-world context to missions like Medal of Honor Warfighter is going to have? We do plan on real-world locations and real-world cities. We aren't planning to, aside from inspirationally, through things like possibly the LA bank robbery engagement or the aforementioned oil tanker Takedown, which is based on a real situation that happened with the Russian Special Forces. We're looking at those for inspiration, but we won't be trying to recreate actual exact missions and situations. Domino99, how will you make the game have high replayability? Like I mentioned before, part of the big part of replayability is the nonlinearity of the spaces. So you can play the missions multiple ways, complete the objectives in any order you choose to find the most efficient way. Much like the Gra 2 co-op missions on Xbox. And then also a lot of the the co-op additional game modes, both things like Tango Hunt and objective-based game modes that you can play, as well as multiplayer. So I have a strong belief that nonlinearity and adds to replayability. Even going back to older games like RTSs that you could just play in skirmish mode and really enjoy them. Because the game systems themselves are fun, and that's our focus, is making sure the game systems are solid rather than trying to come up with a cinematic experience that might only be fun once. Machine 1981, hopefully nothing lame like Rainbow Six Vegas. Hopefully nothing lame, yes, that is the plan, nothing lame. Bob the Cat Law, who's doing your music? Will you be releasing any sample tracks? Rich Douglas is currently signed to do the music. There are sample tracks at the website. I don't know, Terry, if those are easy to copy or not. But we do have 2 sample tracks. They were both used in the Kickstarter video, but we have the MP3 sample tracks out that you can download. I believe you can see at least one of them at Rich Douglas's website. So if you Google Rich Douglas, you'll be able to find them. And Terry's right now is trying to find a link from where we had them posted up on our website, and he'll post them up in here. Let's see. Will you add a good mods add-ons made by the users to the games? Stavari. We do plan to support modders that way. We're already in talk, have been contacted with a mod group that's been pushed by Paladin, who's here. We want to be able to support modders pre-launch and give them information that's going to help them build the game or mods for the game. And we plan to have community mods that we endorse, that we'll say these are the ones that we like, that we think are solid. We're going to put out the game that we think is the right decision of what the game needs to be. But being a modder myself, we support modders and want to give them as much support as we can. Zygris, have you been drinking on the job again? How many beers does it take for the first map to look good? Joke. Haven't been drinking yet today, so you can listen to a podcast with me drinking when I interviewed with someone during the Kickstarter, and I got kind of lit and then ranted about publishers, so maybe someone can find that and post it. Domino99 just posted the sound link. In my lame message, I was Machine 1981 was when he was saying that Vegas was lame. He was asking about customization. I've said this multiple times. We do plan on multiple levels of customization for the character. Obviously, customized slots for the weapon for different operational things, but we aren't planning to turn it into an unlocking system. M. Shumi, are tactical strobe lights a possibility, or is that too Hollywood? I wouldn't say that it's too Hollywood if you're talking about putting a strobe on your weapon light. It's just about the cost and the effects, and getting it right. Getting light blinding working in game in a realistic way is kind of hit and miss, and I'd say we'd have to look at that for implementation. Let's see. Monkey Murdy, on weapons, will guns kick and need player input to bring the sights back to the normal once the trigger has been released? Will guns sway, breathing effect, fatigue, aiming effect? Right now, there's base accuracy that's affected by your movement. and well, your movement, your stance, your wounded level, things like that, the weight that you're carrying. So base accuracy is essentially the cone of fire, and then there's recoil as well, which is actually weapon lift when you fire the weapon, and that's again based on there's modifiers based on stance, type of weapon. Obviously the stance differences when you're handling a pistol are less effect than when you're handling a sniper rifle. So a sniper rifle has less kick if you're in crouch, standing, or sitting still, rather than if you're standing and moving. This is Nick. Will you be able to choose your race in Takedown? Sorry if that sounds mean. No, that doesn't sound mean. We are planning to have multiple operatives that you'll be able to choose from. Within those multiple operatives will be characters from different ethnicities and different nationalities. So you'll have a roster of multiple characters, be able to choose from those characters. I'm talking about the single-player campaign. Haven't yet worked out how your multiplayer character will be chosen, but since all those assets are going to be created, we plan to support those in multiplayer as well. So yes, you would be able to choose within a range of different ethnicities and nationalities. We're a multinational game that want to support all races, ethnicities, and whatever else you want to put onto the character. Oh, and males and females. Will the biomap, this is from Jimmy Bob, will the biomap include randomized doorways to increase nonlinearity? By randomized doorways, I'm going to assume what you mean is doors that some doors are impassable or moved around or things like that. As far as moved around right now, no. But we are planning a contextual action system where different doors would have different ways that you could interact with them, i.e., a regular door that just there'd be automatic doors that might open and close, be doors that would be just open that you could open and close, doors that would be locked that you could pick the lock and then or you could breach it, things like that, and then possibly heavy doors that couldn't be breached. So multiple types of doors, and those is something that we could randomize the states for those different doors. Let's see. BS Paladin, will you be able to select your players into multiple teams? For instance, like Ghost Recon, that is the plan, yes. That you'd be able to put into multiple elements. How many elements is still up in the air? The basic element would be 2. And hopefully more than that to be able to interact tactically. So right now the 2 insertion points into the space are the parking garage and the roof. So you'd be able to split your elements between the parking garage and the roof, and then move into the space. Zygris, will there only be human models in the game? Any plans to maybe add canine units? First plan is humans. Let's get those right, and then we'll see if we want to conquer dogs. I'm not really big on dogs. Other games already do dogs. They're neat, and so yeah. Domino 99. What will be the main aim firing? Shoulder view or ADS? Is ADS down the sights? Ask me again. Bear unit confirmed. Yes, I guess we have to have bears somewhere in there. Christian, you served, right? And how have you used that to design the game? Yes, so I served. I've served 4 years active duty, Marine Corps Military Police at MCS El Toro and MCS Tustin, garrison law enforcement, and my job there was pretty much primarily law enforcement. So patrol, DUIs, traffic stops, domestics, barricaded suspects, and that kind of fun stuff. And then I served right about 3 years in the Air Guard as security police, again doing garrison. And then I did another 3 years in the Army Guard as a field MP. And so how that affects how the game is made, while I'm not a combat vet and still reach out to people that have that experience. I do have the base experience in Firearms. I was expert pistol and rifle. I was a pistol trainer and have trained other people on things like the M249 and the Mark 19 40mm grenade launcher. I know what it's like to be in those situations and point weapons at other human beings. And so, with that base knowledge, just kind of, there's a lot of gut decisions that you can make on animation. For example, Andy got in, just the very first tactical walk animations in, and it was very easy to, when we first put it in, we actually put it in with the MP5K model, and instantly I could say, well, let's not do the base animation on an MP5K model, because the way you handle a stockless MP5K is much different than you handle, say, just a standard MP5. Say SD5 with a collapsible stock, because the way you hold that weapon is different. So we switched over to the standard MP5 to get that base walk model and brought his elbow down, worked on the way he walked and the way he stood. When we wanted to get a reference for how to hold weapons, I just grabbed an airsoft weapon and did stances, and Andy took pictures of me. So that does help. New Boyd 3D, how will recoil work in this game? Will we be able to learn to control it? Yes, like I mentioned before, recoil is separate from accuracy. So in something like GRAW, recoil and accuracy were actually rolled into one system, and so that's where you got the reticle bloom. It was based on both accuracy and recoil, and you couldn't really learn to control that. You couldn't really stick against it. It was basically just slowing down, and there was some other problems with that system. And so by divorcing accuracy and recoil, you can either mouse or stick to help control that recoil. The more you use a weapon and get used to how that weapon handles, definitely things like putting on single shot or triple shot makes a weapon much easier to control in that system. Right now the M4 actually it's the G36 assault rifle that we have in is much more effective in triple shot than in full auto, because in full auto it tends to run away from you a little bit, and it's a lot easier to control on triple shot because of that recoil system. Will the Termless Halo, will there be a mission where you can take on criminals like bikers running on cartel, running drugs, doing hits? We are planning on missions like that, specifically the cartels. There's some really cool mission types that we could pull on cartels, mirroring the takedown of some of the cartel heads, especially in some of their opulent mansions. There was a pretty cool operation a few years back. I want to say it was in, Colombia, where they took down one of the cartel heads' mansion, and that was a pretty cool mission. So looking at things like cartels, obviously, things like nice thing about biker gangs is they can move across border and have a lot of different opportunities for missions to take them down. Do you think, I'm not sure who asked this one, do you think games will ever be able to convey to gamers the gravity and seriousness of having to shoot someone? I think some games will continue to try, and one thing that really impressed me with I don't know if you guys have ever watched Flashpoint, but the very first episode of Flashpoint was all about the urban sniper taking the shot, and really it was less about him taking shot, and the whole episode was about him dealing with the consequences, the investigations. Now, of course, later episodes pretty much got rid of all that, because they started shooting people like every other episode, and they would have spent all their time on administrative paid leave in real life. So whether games are going to be able to convey the gravity and seriousness of having to shoot someone, I think that's a whole game in and of itself. I mean, that's what Spy Party is built around. Whether you take the right shot, and I think a game like Spy Party has an opportunity to look at those kinds of things. Spec Op The Line tried recently to push kind of the Heart of Darkness, moral impact and psychological impact, but realistically conveying having to shoot someone in a game, I think we're a long way away from that, just like Hollywood's a long way away from that. So Trevidian, What about chemical light sticks, handcuff, and other stuff like in SWAT 3? I miss them in newer games. We are looking at non-lethal options and additional equipment. Chem light sticks isn't something that we've thought of, but that's a cool idea. The system that we're designing to support equipment is meant to be able to slot in various different aspects, like things like chem lights. Obviously, offensive things like flashbangs, but even things like noise generators, where you could drop a noise generator that might generate, the sounds of someone walking or the sounds of someone moving to help distract AI, or even in multiplayer, are the types of things that we're looking at. But as well as non-lethal things like, looking at taser rounds for the shotguns, beanbag rounds to be able to incapacitate people, especially if you have a ROE that requires non-lethal takedown. ADS or hip fire is both the accuracy. So shoulder view or aim down sights. So the view is shoulder view. So your weapon is up at the ready, and you're looking over your weapon, and then you can pull it up to view through. Currently, all the weapons have optical sights, some type, so you can pull those up. Will the accuracy be the same with both? Probably the base accuracy would be the same, but the recoil would change. So you'd have probably a little less recoil tightened in on when you're aiming down the sights. But hip fire, a lot of people have asked about hip fire. I view hip fire as weapon down low, spray and pray. We're not going to be supporting that for the player. Some AI will hip fire. The low end stupid AI will hip fire, and that will be shown in their accuracy and their ability to hit you. What types of adversarial game modes are planned for multiplayer for Machine 1981? Multiple types. The base modes that we're planning on supporting, of course, are deathmatch style, last man standing, no respawn, round-based modes. We want to have attack defend style, objective based round-based modes, a la a siege style mode. But then we're also looking at various different objective based modes. One of the things that I've talked about, I think, a few times is a mode style called Manhunt, which is built to support smaller game parties. It's one of the things that I think a lot of the games don't work to do, is to support games with 4 or 5 people, not all the way up to 12, 16. A game like Manhunt is 2 players. If you have, say, 2 on 3 or 1 on 2, one player has the smaller team has the selection of any weapon, and either wins by either killing all the other team or waiting the timeout where the other team has more people but is limited in their weapon selection to things like AKs or unsuppressed weapons, and they have to go hunt down the others before the time limit comes out. So those are the types of modes that we're looking at. Basically, the basic force on force, last man standing mode, attack defend type objective modes, and then alternate modes like Manhunt. Monkey Murdy, any further thought on the concept of money in game? I haven't heard it mentioned for a while. Although all weapons may be selectable when you bring out your pay, so doing a mission with money means brings big pay. We honestly haven't been working on the money system. We had a big thread about it in the forums, and we've gathered a lot of information on it. Right now we're focusing on the core gameplay and really getting that tweaked, and then we'll come back to the system, whether it's just in single player for hiring new or replacement operatives if you get your operatives killed, because once you get an operative killed in single player, they're gone. They don't come back, although we may have a non-mortal wounding system to allow them to come back in a few missions if they're not actually killed. But how the money system would affect that, from the base level being just a reward system or a scoring system, much like SWAT had, to be able to post on leaderboards and things like that and earn badges or such in single player, or whether it will be more along purchasing operatives. Again, we don't really plan a money system based around weapons. It will pretty much turn into an unlocking system, which a lot of you have said that you don't want to have to start the game with an AK and work yourself up to a SCAR or something like that. Domino99, why do you want to do an interview with the real SOCOM? Because SOCOM gamers keep asking me to, so that's why. BS Paladin, will you use a challenges system similar to the dossier from Ghost Recon? I haven't looked at that yet. The challenges system was essentially a set of achievements in Ghost Recon, complete missions in different ways, complete missions with no losses, complete missions in a certain amount of time. And those could be a possibility, but I think it could also work into the ROE objective system for the individual missions and possibly into individual co-op missions or co-op game types, especially if we do a scoring system a la SWAT, where it may be about completing secondary objectives to be able to earn the higher prestige level from that mission or that game mode. Termless Halo, would you do a third-person shooter for Takedown? We are planning to go third-person when we work on the PlayStation version after the PC version is complete. We're planning first-person for PC. We may allow third-person in review mode to watch your missions after they're played. Imshumi, what level of gore will this game have? So this actually just got brought up on the forums as well, and it's been brought up a few times. We're planning enough blood to communicate to the player what has happened. So if you shoot a character in the chest and he has body armor, we want to be able to show that round didn't go through, and you might get the the white puff or something like that. But if you get a shot in the arm that penetrates, we want to show blood. But the purpose of blood in the game is to communicate to the player what has happened. So what we want to be able to use visual indicators and not use things like kill announcers because of the gameplay impacts of that. If you shoot an enemy, and he ducks behind a corner, and you can't tell if he fell back or ducked back, you hit him, but you don't know the status of that AI, you got to go check it out. But if you instantly get a notification that says, HP Killer 199, executed so-and-so with your MP5, then you already know he's dead, and you don't need to follow up on that kill. Same in multiplayer. And so that's why we want to have visual indicators that support that. But the actual gore and just having gratuitous chunks blow off people and jib is just not a focus of us. It's not where we're going to stand out, and not a big focus. Corfino, so no dismemberment. No, not planning on dismemberment. Not planning on blowing off limbs and things like that. There's issues beyond just the amount of time that it takes to implement that stuff. You're running into problems with different countries like Germany and things like that with ratings in Australia. We're not going to limit the amount of violence for the sake of things like that. We're not going to try to lower the amount of language or blood or whatever to get a lower rating. We're also not going to exaggerate the amount of stuff to try to be edgy or pushy or get news or anything like that. Bobcat. Oh, great time for my phone to ring. Bobcat, have you considered getting Takedown's name out through live stream near release? I know the guys Destructoid's Twitch channel, they run a lot of game promos. Yeah, we're going to be doing a push near release to try to get out through live streams. We want to be talking with guys like MLG about promoting the game and get it out as broad as possible. And you can email Terry. All right, step back and see if I missed any here. Have you heard about Oculus Rift? No, I have not really looked into Oculus Rift. So I will have to look into that one. All right, we got about 10 minutes left. So can they just message you if they're interested in the PAX Pass? Just email you? So if you're here, email Terry H. TERRHY at Serellan.com. He just posted it in the chat log. If you're interested in those PAX Pass, if you're local in Seattle and you can come pick it up, if we get any emails right after this, we'll wait a while to post this on YouTube, so you guys will get first crack at it. Then we'll probably give it out, post in the Kickstarters to see if anybody from them wants it, and then we'll post it on Twitter if nobody picks it up after that. So, New Bold 3D, how will character movement feel? It's probably going to feel a little bit slower than you're used to if you've been playing a lot of Call of Duty or things like that. We started character movement based on real-life movement numbers. Because our system's built from a real mathematical standpoint, I could actually go in and start with miles per hour with acceleration and things like that, and then we're tweaking it for fun from there. The plan is to have it as smooth as possible, both on mouse and keyboard and gamepad. But don't be expecting to be side strafing with your M249 like crazy. There's going to be realistic things to help make movement part of the tactical experience. Mshumi, the biggest lately for multiplayer shooters is hit detection and netcode. They're very option server-side, client-side, hybrid or both. Mutilators, you have an option in mind. We're still looking into that. We gotta talk to third-party middleware people and the various different support that we're gonna have for multiplayer to really make sure that obviously hit detection and netcode is a huge thing for us. It has to be extremely precise. It's one of the reasons that we decided to go with Unreal over Unity, because when we looked into Unity, a lot of the work that we were going to have to do on the networking side was kind of overrode some of the cost savings in Unity. So let's see. Machine, will there be any weapons or gadgets like you see in the newer GRAW games? For example, realistic items that are in prototype. We are planning on gadgetry, but only gadgetry that would be both work in gameplay and something that's actually being made and is functional. So something like the aforementioned noise generator, breaching charges, things like that, rather than hooking up with Natick Soldier Center and trying to look 5 years into the future for what they project. Obviously, if you look at GRAW, some of that stuff comes alive and some of it doesn't. It was always kind of a guessing game, which always made it challenging, especially during the length of development. Half the time you'd start out and the Army was all hot and bothered about the XM8. By the time you were shipping, the XM8 was canceled. So there's a lot of problems with that. Let's see. When we'll be able to see some in-game footage? New Bold. We got about 7 minutes left, guys. In-game footage going to be a little bit farther down the line. We probably, when we do the screenshots, we might do some fly-throughs, so you'll be able to do some fly-throughs of the space and see that. Various different screenshots of the spaces. Biggest thing on in-game footage is animations. It's just taking us time to get animations in. So, like right now, there's not death animations on the enemy AI. They'll either disappear or rag or T-pose. So we got to get that kind of stuff in before we do the gameplay footage. Animation on the weapon, like we've got the 9mm pistol animated, but we still need to animate the other ones and do texture passes on those and things. So it'll be a little bit longer on the in-game footage, gameplay footage after the screenshots. Terminal's Halo, any updates about Terrorist Hunt mode? We don't have Terrorist Hunt mode because I believe Terrorist Hunt mode is in Rainbow Six. We have Tango Hunt mode though. One of the things that we looked at, we got some feedback from Raven Shield players on randomization of placement in Tango Hunt mode style, and so we do want to have that randomization of placement, both semi-randomization, so that when you play those type of modes, it's not always the same dudes in the same place, it's not difficult these days if you plan it right and do it right and have done it for years. So. More design contests anytime soon from Domino. We'll look into it. If you have any suggestions for design contests or art contests, let us know. Obviously, Boca did a great job on the Red Saber logos. When you Kickstarters are going to get your patches, which we've now ordered. How many? 2,000 of them? 1,500? Thousands of them. Lots of friggin' patches. You're going to see Boca's design on that. And so if you guys aren't at the forums to see that kind of stuff or checking the website, you should come check that out. I like that in Grawl and dead players cannot communicate with living players. Is this something that you want back and could force as an option? We do want to have that. We probably would make that an option that would default on, that dead players can't talk to live players. We want to support the competitive nature of the game so that it's not, the dead players just calling out to all the live players where it's going. But we also know that some people, you're playing LAN with your buddies or a private game, and sometimes you just want to run around and BS and shoot each other, and you don't want to be cut off from each other. So we want to have those multiple options to support the type of gameplay that you want to play. Let's see. Last question. When will you guys have another community game night? Get in the forums and help set it up. We're busy nailing on this game, and the forum guys who do a great job keeping the forums up and running. They organize those last ones, and so the community can feel free to organize those as well. And especially the games that you want to play, and especially if you can get the servers, especially for the older games. We're even having trouble getting Rainbow Six 3 running LAN in our office. And if you have expertise in those kinds of things, getting those set up and then coordinating with the mods on the forums, and we can push it out and then jump in, hopefully play with you guys as well. All right, so we're coming up to the end of the 3 minutes, or 3 minutes left. So I want to kind of wrap this up. This is going to be published on YouTube at some point shortly. And I want to thank all you guys for coming to Twitch, twitch.tv/Serellan, to our channel here. I appreciate that I couldn't get to all your questions. It's pretty cool that an hour of questions we can blaze through, and I still have a bunch from the forums I didn't get to. I know I've been slowing down on the Q&As. I'm going to get back on those, the written ones, and get another bunch. So there'll be one set that goes out to our Kickstarters and supporters, and another goes to the general public. And so definitely, if you're not a supporter or Kickstarter, you can check out Serellan.com/support. If you want to get into that exclusive club, you can buy some of our merchandise. I do want to throw out clarification on the merchandise stuff. The merchandise that we're purchasing for the Kickstarter, that's a bulk order that we're doing through a company that does that kind of stuff. The products that you can purchase through support, those are print on demand through Zazzle. So we're not spending Kickstarter money to buy that other stuff. When you buy that stuff through support or Serellan.com through support, they take a chunk for the physical item that you're getting, and then we get the rest of that to help support development. So Terry has logged the unanswered questions, and we're coming up on right an hour now. So I want to say thanks to everybody, and we'll get this posted up. So thanks very much, and have a good weekend. I'm going back to work now.